Let's talk more about the 2021 matric results with Basic Education Parliament Portfolio Committee member Bafuze Yabo. Mr. Yabo, very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. So were these results better than expected, given just the challenges from the pandemic alone?
Good evening, and good evening to your listeners, to your viewers. Apologies for that. I think the results that we have been presented with bring us a relief, considering the period that we have been through in the last 2 years. A 0.2% increase on the results may seem minuscule to many, but to us it is quite monumental, considering the context within which these results have been achieved.
And when you look at just in terms of the qualitative assessment of the outcome, 36.4% of matriculants who wrote matric, 34 points, let me get that right. It's 36.4% of candidates who wrote matric last year managed to get a bachelor's pass that allows them entry into university. 25% got a diploma pass. How do we not only improve on that, but sustain that quality of result going forward?
I think the work is in earnest, and I think if you look by comparison, juxtaposing the results that we're looking at this year and the results we got last year, it demonstrates that a lot of work has been put into getting the results. Yes, of course, there are provinces which have dropped, in particular, Gauteng would have dropped, KwaZulu-Natal would have dropped, Limpopo and Mpumalanga. But looking at the results, juxtaposing them, there is a great improvement. And I think moving forward, a lot of work needs to be put into making sure that the basics are gotten right. And I think the one thing that will markedly improve is in the fact that as time moves on, obviously the pandemic will be a thing of the past. It may not be now in relation to the rotational system, but with the passage of time, surely we will get back to normalcy. And with that, we will have an advantage that the face-to-face time teaching, learner and teacher time will improve as well as the results. So the work has been put into it. So if you consider that 5 months has been lost in the previous academic year, and yet we still managed to pull off these results. And of course, we are still chasing the 2019 peak. And we believe that we are going to get there and surpass it with time. But hard work needs to be put into this. It needs to be a collective effort. We need to put in our collective strengths into making sure that this thing comes together and we surpass the 80% mark yet again.
You mentioned rotational learning. There's broad agreement across the various stakeholders in the basic education sector that it is indeed hindering the ability to teach and the ability of pupils to learn. Why not just do away with it? Is it time for government to make that decision?
Well, we've always had confidence in the National COVID-19 Council, who have been guiding us through the dark time and dark period, and literally stormy waters that we have been navigating through for the last 2 years. We have had confidence that they would know and have the best data at their disposal to make decisions on what should happen. And I think it has always been a tricky balance between saving lives and making sure that normal life continues as it should be, as we knew it 2 years ago. But at this point in time, we will leave it to the NCCC to make an assessment of the data at their disposal and to make a call and make that decision. But we would say that it is important that we get back to a sense of normalcy as soon as possible, so that we do not lose any more time. But like I said, we have confidence that the National COVID-19 Council would take a decision that is very sound for all of us.
You mentioned the goal of achieving matric pass rate of 80%. We're at 76%. or so this year, and it has been around that region for the past 2-3 years. Is increasing the pass requirement for pupils to 50% part of working towards that goal? Because I'm sure you've seen that debate in the public, especially since December.
Well, our view is that any positive improvement in the standard of our, or the quality of our education, it should be welcome. And the debate on whether we should lift up the bottom base at this point in time, it's something that's still in the public discourse. And I think we should not conflate two issues, whether the low base speaks to low quality or it speaks to the ability to counterbalance the requirements for advancing those who are in the system. You would understand as well that we have a high dropout rate, which is something that needs to be attended to very quickly. And it's part of those issues that have to be looked at and put into perspective and corrected as we move forward. So whether to lift the bottom base to 50%, that's a conversation we are all having. And as a committee, we feel that if further improvements in the quality of our teaching and learning will go a long way to ensure that the future of our country is secured.
So, Mr. Yabo, let me ask you this question, because the Basic Education Minister also said this at the announcement of the results, where she said she's not going to go into the debate about the pass rate because it is being misunderstood in terms of the definition of a pupil who has passed. I mean, it's far more technical than if you get 30% you pass. I recall in my time, if you had 7 subjects, you'd have to pass about 4 of them, and even then a university would have to work out your M score in order for you to be admitted into the various courses, right? Do you think that generally, broadly in South African society, there is an understanding of what is meant when a pupil is said to have passed?
I think there's a need to really expound on the understanding of the general public on what goes into a learner passing and what is defined as passing. And yes, you are correct. There is a technical aspect to it that I cannot go into for less time. But the basic understanding should be that whatever is in red is not necessarily a presentation of weak quality education. Whatever is in red, as calculated by those who are experts in making sure that children are defined as having passed, does not give credence to the argument that our education system is weak. I would challenge anyone, in actual fact, who has written exams before the current curriculum was introduced, to sit with one of these papers and let's see how well they do, if indeed they say the quality of education has dropped.
Can I ask you, sir, about another situation, not specific to the matric results, but another story to do with schooling in the headlines this week? That's at the Tirillon Secondary School in the Northwest, where pupils have had to be relocated because that school is in no state to house pupils and educators. It's been vandalized and equipment stolen. I mean, window frames also taken in just 2021. There's been a big controversy this week with parents saying they were tricked, allegedly, into signing indemnity forms. They want their kids to come back closer to home for learning. The education department saying that's a misrepresentation of what's gone on. What is your take on what's happening at Tirillon?
Well, I wouldn't want to venture into giving a personal opinion on that particular circumstance. And I think it's important that for all intents and purposes, when a story of this nature breaks, we should take our discretion applied on the facts. And to get the facts, we have to get close to the situation so as to understand what is actually happening at that particular school, so as not to make uninformed comments on the media that may return to bite some of us.
Okay.
And so leave it at that.
Would I be fair in saying that perhaps it's a situation that you as a committee may have to watch closely and maybe even visit?
Of course, there are many such schools which have poor infrastructure, vandalism, and a general state of disrepair that we have to look into. And so this school is by no means a special case. Perhaps it may be in the finer facts that may present themselves as we zoom into it. But yes, we will put an eye on it as a developing story, or as a situation that may demand our attention. But of course, the ministry and the department, as the frontline people, will have to zoom into it, because they are the team that must look at resolving the problems.
Okay.
We, as an oversight committee, will play our oversight role into ensuring that everything that has happened there, if there are corrective measures that must be put into place, they must be put into place post-haste.
Bafuze Yabo, good to speak to you, member of the Basic Education Portfolio Committee at Parliament. Thank you for your time, sir.